Good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. Hope your weekend was rad. Mine was rad. The weekend was rad. Spent a lot of good time with Kryptonio. He's going to be our DCTV Spanish correspondent in part with Jaime. So, spent a lot of time with him and some other good people that I wanted to be around. Made some music, fun stuff. So, if you would, go ahead and say good morning in the chat. Would love to give shout outs in a little bit. And today is Monday. Monday, February 20th. And what's up, everyone? Good morning. Go ahead and throw good morning in the chat. I'll give shout outs in a little bit. Let's take a look at Jaime. Hi, Jaime.
I showered just for you today. It's Monday.
Brother, thank you. You smell fragrant.
Yeah, it's plain old soap, brother.
So this is Crypto and Coffee, where we drink about coffee and talk about crypto.
Hell yeah. We continue building no matter what everyone else does.
Yeah, and really our goal for the show, in case anyone's like popping into DCTV and wondering, hey, what happened to DCTV? It's a little different format. Yeah, we're going to start doing different shows. So Crypto and Coffee is going to be a show where we read the news of the day and we talk about the technicals on it. And it's really meant to be educational. It's really meant to inform you properly so that you become increasingly more prepared to make the right calls in the space. And so please let us know anything you'd like us to cover. We're happy to go into depth on that. We're really active in the chat, so if you can talk into the chat, we'll answer to them if they're not talking about my mother. Yeah. So
and what kept me live during previous bear markets was precisely this channel, and I think that's the privilege what drives us to continue despite so few people watching, all things considered. Of course, when the bull run comes, everyone's in there, but the true builders and the ones that understand what this technology is are always present. And so we continually see OGs from that era. And that's what drives us to keep going, because there's always noobs. And some of you may have entered during the peaks or as we were coming down and wonder, damn, did I make the wrong choice? And that's who you are, the one we want to share our knowledge with, because we continue building no matter what the market does. So this is for you. This coffee's for you guys.
Yeah, and we do roll call, by the way. So one of the things on this specific show, go ahead and say what's up in the chat. Say something funny. Tell me a dad joke. Who knows? We'll do roll call and just give shout outs to everybody too. So let's get into our lovely market update, shall we? So we have a situation on our hands, everyone. Whoop, whoop. That's better. But the situation's not bad. It's not bad. So Bitcoin in the last week is up 14%. And a lot of people are wondering what's happening with that. Well, we're certainly going to go into detail on that. Ethereum is up 12.5%. So you're starting to see Ethereum mirror a lot of what Bitcoin's doing even still into 2023. And then, BNB, because Binance dropped their BUSD coin, there was a lot of FUD around that. And so people kind of threw their hands down and backed up a little bit, just waiting for the FUD to chill out. So people bought the opportunity and just made a little bit. That's what that's about. XRP has a lot of news happening right now with just the SEC and their whole story. So that's why they're up here at the top of the charts with a 5.3% gain in the last week. Cardano is doing a lot of network upgrades as far as proof of stake, goes. They also released their stable coins, so a lot of people are interested in that, and that's the reason why you'll see Cardano getting these green days. Polygon's killing it. What I mean by killing it is they're killing it, like 20% up in the last week, because we have a few stories on Polygon today too. Polygon is just constantly solving problems, and they're implementing things correctly, and it's easy to use, and they're getting big integrations, and like
Yep.
people have good reason to be bullish on Polygon because they're actually building tools that don't suck. So like don't
Precisely.
get used to that in this space. Most tools suck, but Polygon is building things that don't suck. And
Yep.
then we got Solana also with some big moves. Kind of doing the same thing. Solana had some FUD around it. We're seeing Solana catch some breaks here or there, specifically because other networks are integrating with them. I think these integrations started a while ago, before all that FUD happened, and they're just happening to start delivery right around now, and that's what gave them a reprieve from all that FUD they had. But Polkadot, same thing. Polkadot is releasing a lot of really solid network upgrades and integrations. They're very heavy with DeFi, and people are starting to realize, like, hey, since we can't do all this like GPU mining and stuff, maybe we should start paying attention to DeFi. Hey, since NFTs aren't in a hot market right now, maybe we should be doing DeFi in order to make some money while we're just kind of holding bags. And then Charlie Lee, way down here. We salute you, Charlie Lee, but I don't know what you're doing anymore.
No, Litecoin has historically been the crash test dummy for Bitcoin. So a lot of any new protocol or addition to the protocol, they usually test it in Litecoin, and if it goes well, then
Yep.
it's deployed on the actual Bitcoin. So just so you know a bit of history for Litecoin. So
yeah, the reason he's beat up is because he's our crash test dummy.
You need him.
It's his job to get his ass handed to him. So Jaime, if you would, I'm going to share my charts on Bitcoin and just show you like what I was looking at. But
perfect.
Jaime has a pretty deep technical analysis too. So, so these are the levels I'm looking at. This is each candle's a day here, and we've been looking at this whole moment where we kind of fell off this cliff here, right? Like we fell off this 30K cliff.
That was the Luna. That was the Luna crash.
Collapsed.
Yep,
exactly. And so that threw a ton of FUD in the space. It kind of got us to a point where people started really asking, I don't know, like where is the bottom? Like we don't have any support in here, so we should probably find tree branches to hit our head on and just keep going down until we find something that holds our body weight. So maybe our velocity will slow down. So that's kind of what happened. We hit this low at like 17K, wicked right out of it. Didn't stay there long at all, right? And we've had this kind of crab walk where we're testing these key levels over this, when was that? June last year? So it's almost been a year. And this is kind of what I'm looking at. And what I found is that these bands actually hold. Like if you want to trade levels, this is what I've been doing and it works. So not financial advice, but for me, it's worked. And you can see how it's worked. So, this level became tested here. We beat it, but not with much momentum. Anyways, you can see how we really resistance that was hard to beat. We finally beat out of it. Nice. And tested this level, failed, came back, tested again, punched through it. But we tested this level here, this 25K, which was the wicks of what happened in August, and we failed. We got rejected back. Now, the song's not over to the Fat Lady Sings, of course, so we don't know if we're done with that, but certainly it didn't punch through the first time. And so I'm expecting if it tries one more time, it's going to get rejected down to this 21K, and then we don't know if that'll hold or not. So Jaime has some charts as well. So Jaime, what are you thinking on the more macro view?
Beautiful. So, and I'll jump into the daily also with you as I've been watching it. So this is the weekly. So there's the death cross we had 2 weeks ago. And you can see that Bitcoin is now between at this moment before the weekly close. So we have until next Sunday to determine what's going to ultimately happen here. But we are between the 50 and the 200 moving average. The 200 is the grandpappy. That's the one everyone's watching. So let me remove the colorful. Oops, the other way around. boom, and boom. And keep it real simple. So here's the 200, the red line, and the 50 moving average. This is known as the death cross, and the golden cross, when it moves, the green one moves above it. At this very moment, we're sandwiched between the two. The big question is, will we cross above the 200 moving average on the weekly? Remember, we had never been below the 200 ever since Bitcoin began. If you notice, we've wicked below, but we have not closed below, and it has used it as support. Now we're right at the back up there, testing it as either resistance, or do we cross above? And that's what you were referring to. Now, let's zoom in on the 3-day. The 3-day is usually the lowest time frame I use. And up here, the weekly resistance we're looking at, which is around 28,000, is when the Luna collapse occurred. Now, what we're looking at this very moment on the 3-day is a rising channel. What that means is, if you notice, whenever we have a run up like this, you expect a pullback in terms of the price action, cooling down, getting ready for the next pump upwards. So you see that coming down. We came down, tested that support that you mentioned, Brandon, which is the FTX collapse.
Yep.
And now are running back up and are still in that rising channel. Here's what I'm watching at this moment, which may preclude the statement you just made earlier, where will it tap it as resistance and fall back? Here's my concern. If you notice, the price is rising overall, even though it took a dip down here, it's still back in that channel, which is a show of strength. But if you notice the RSI, which is the relative strength indicator, or as Don Frank calls it, the really stupid indicator, it shows it's slowing down. It seems to be reaching a point of balance. But the big question is, if I zoom in on the daily level, what has it been doing? So if you notice, the price action, despite this dip, is right back to where it was. It's still rising. We could rise up to 24,000, 25,000 at this during this day or week. The big question is the following: as price rises and you see the strength indicator going further down, this is what's known as a bearish divergence. It's like fuel running out of the strength of the rise is running out. So that's the only concern I have at this moment with this rise is, and where I lean to where it could drop, either to retest the 50 moving average or back down to 19,700 to retest the daily 200 moving average, which is usually a technical level where you will find a bounce or a slight bounce to move forward up, or decide, do we continue down or come back up? So in short, I'm watching the price rising and the strength decline on the daily. Because it's the daily, it shouldn't be as bloody as the 6 month when we were working here at the top, where we saw the price rising and the strength dropping, which brought us this massive bloodbath. At this moment, I'm looking more of a week, 2 weeks, at most maybe a month worth of bloodletting, if this proves to be a bearish divergence ultimately. So that's what we're keeping our eyes on. This week, we may see the 25,000 hit again. So if we move to the weekly again, there's the 25,000. It is sitting at around 25 precisely, which is the 200 moving average. The big question is, what is Bitcoin going to do at this point? So we have this week to watch that. Watch it, and do not long. Remember, don't long at resistance. If it crosses above and comes back and tests the 200 as support, then you can make some decisions on the safe side because you have confirmation. That's our only advice. not financial advice, as just meager experience we've had during these years. You make your calls as you see fit. That's what I see so far this week, Brandon.
Yeah, I agree. And you're going to find that the strategies that we're talking about here are probably going to be confirmed over and over again as just really sound advice. And mind you, we're not fortune telling. We're just giving some really solid key indicators that have shown that there's a lot of reason to think that they're going to play a certain way. So inform yourself as much as possible. Make decisions based on available information. Never invest more than you're willing to lose, or at least hold HODL long term.
Right.
and keep calm, because the emotions will get you bagged, son. No one needs to get bagged. Come on, don't get bagged. So that's our market update for the day. So I'm almost not sick. It's really cool. I just have a stupid cough now. Jaime, make me stop being sick all the time.
Bro.
So dumb.
You're at the exit strategy now. It's
Help
just
me.
that dry cough. You should be fine after that.
So let us get into some of the news for the day, shall we? So I'm going to throw Jaime and I on the side here. So the SEC puts crypto-friendly celebrities on notice and fines NBA legend Paul Pierce $1.4 million for plugging EthereumMax. So
same as the Kardashian girls.
Oh, poor Cardis. I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah, EthereumMax got quite a few celebrities to pitch him, huh?
Wow. EthereumMax to me sounds like a tampon brand, but yeah. I don't know. What do I know? Good. What do I know? But I'm also wondering too if I don't know how much money this cat makes, and I don't know if this is a slap on the wrist or if this is actually bearing some teeth.
The Kardashian girls was a slap on the wrist. So I would assume the same is here. It's more to make an example of them for the community, I think.
Yeah, I have mixed feelings about any government entity finding people this kind of money, but also I have mixed feelings about people not doing their own research, and I have mixed feelings about celebrities preying on ignorant investors. So I don't know where I land on any of this. I really don't.
But I think that's the key, is what we've always been mentioning. Do your research. It doesn't matter who speaks to you. And in the case of these individuals, they did promote EthereumMax as a tweet and got paid to do so. So in this instance, this is the next influencer that SEC Uncle Gary has gone after.
Yeah, Big Daddy Gary. I mean, no disrespect to Gary. I think he's part of the Dirty Shovel gang now. I think he's been talking about holding your own keys, making sure you do it. So
that's because he's gunning for these sexes. He's gunning for the centralized exchanges at this very moment.
I prefer to call them keks. The reason, first off, it doesn't sound like you're being, you're being saucy. I put all my money on the sex. You're like, what?
Yeah.
And then the other part is, it reminds me of in World of Warcraft, whenever you say lol, it converts it to kek, like K-E-K, kek.
Yeah.
And so it just reminds me of like central exchange lol. Like it's funny that you're putting your money, decentralized assets on a middle platform. I don't know.
There you go.
That's what my brain thinks. So I call them keks, but sex is certainly with Tamp, and you call them. So Radon knows. The U.S. Security Exchange Commission, the SEC, has its radar locked on celebrities endorsing crypto projects. The regulator announced on Friday that it that it brought charges against retired NBA legend Paul Pierce for plugging EthereumMax, or EMAX, a project that aims to create scalable decentralized finance platforms on the Ethereum network. Okay, I mean, what the hell is Polygon? Get out of here, dude.
I know.
The SEC says Pierce touted EMAX token without disclosing the payment he received for the promotion. Yeah, that's not good. And that he made false and misleading promotional statements about the highly volatile crypto asset. Pierce agreed to settle the charge and pay a $1.41 million fine, according to the regulators. My question real quick here, like, what about all the people who got duped by this guy? They don't get any recourse, but the guy himself has to give the government some money, and that fixes the problem. I don't understand that.
Yeah, no,
That made no party whole.
no. And you'll see that that's their attitude is like they literally handed over all the investors' assets for shit. I
FTX.
don't know if it was Celsius or yes, where they literally lost it, and now the company can use it to try to recover themselves, but the actual investor is out of the loop, and their attitude is like, "Hey, you should have known better, so here you go." So there isn't too large to fail for the small little beanies, but there is too large to fail for the large institutions. So it's not even.
Yeah, that's foul play in my opinion. But because the whole reason for any government intervention is to make parties whole.
Correct.
Like constitutionally, that's constitutionally the only purpose the government serves is just upholding right of law. That's it. Making sure that people have their life, liberty, and property protected, and any laws that step outside of that are overreach and actually the government failing to do what they were created to do in the first place. So
right,
it's like having Fruit Loops that are on display only. It's like, no, I want to eat them. Misunderstand. I don't want to look at them.
Yeah, and instead of issuing regulation, they're fining. They're going after, just whipping everyone involved. Not that EthereumMax was a good investment. I mean, look at what it's worth today, 99% down. So I can see why the action occurred. But let's try to take care of. I mean, I think the right action is here, in terms of creating that awareness of crypto investing is risky. So there's no ifs or buts about it. So the fact that they went after the Kardashian girls and also this guy, it's to protect the small fry that aren't as knowledgeable. And the fact that they did not say, "Hey, I got paid to tell you this," instead of me speaking, "Hey, I believe in these guys, go for it." It's two different things.
You know what I would like more than having a rich person find an amount of money that they don't care about? I would rather them get put into like medieval stocks. That way their hands and their head are like in those like wooden things with the holes in them.
That's right.
And then we can just have like people who got scammed throw fruit at them. Just rotten fruit and vegetables. They get 5 minutes just to throw as much fruit and vegetables as they want, and that's their punishment. And it's live streamed. So,
hey, that could be. You know what? They'll end up sending one of their servants or something if we.
Yeah, he'll get
we go medieval.
Yeah, get a genetically modified clone. Anyways, let's keep reading. So the SEC Chair Gary Gensler took this opportunity to warn celebrities that they could be charged for shilling for crypto projects if they don't disclose promotional payments. And Brandon's parentheses, they may have fruit thrown at them. This case is yet another reminder to celebrities. The law requires you to disclose to the public from whom and how much you're getting paid to promote investments in securities. And you can't lie to investors when you tout a security. When celebrities endorse investment opportunities, including crypto asset securities, investors should be careful to research if the investments are right for them. They should know why celebrities are making those endorsements.
Transparency.
Exactly.
Transparency is the bottom line here.
Yeah. So at the end of 2022, a judge threw out U.S. action lawsuit that alleged numerous celebrities, including peers, fraudulently promoted EthereumMax. The judge, however, said in the case notes the defendants could potentially amend their complaint and receive the lawsuit. Emax is worth a laughable fraction of a penny at the time of writing, down 99% from its all-time high. So the reason I cover this is because the SEC is actually biting, right? We actually see the SEC taking some action against people who are bad actors. And I think that this is making an example, like Jaime said. And I don't know that this will deter people, because if they make enough money in different ways, I think it's still worth it to them to be shysters. But Yeah. Anyways, JV, good morning to you, brother.
Good morning, sir. JV.
JV says, I started crypto 2017. I thought BitConnect was real because I was lazy, didn't do any research, and I wanted to believe I was making an investment for my future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think we all started that way, JV. All of us.
Yeah.
When we first entered, Bitcoin, of course, is the hallmark, but then you start trying to find cheaper projects because you want to make more, of course. And we end up getting involved in these types of scams or but because we're lazy, like we're looking for that get rich quick. So it's great that you shared that experience, JV. We've been through
Yeah.
that.
I think the biggest thing noobs get caught on is this thing of like one coin equals one coin, you know, this whole idea of like, if I have one whole one and that one whole one goes to 10 million, I'll have $10 million. You're like, yeah, but that's really unlikely. You're misunderstanding token economics. You're misunderstanding like having insecurity. You're misunderstanding, you know, there's principles there that as a grain bean you have no clue about, and if you later once you do, you're like, yeah, there's no freaking way. Like Dogecoin, for example, is inflationary. Its purpose is to be spent when you get it, not to hold it forever. You might hold it for a year, but not longer than that. You typically take profits. It's meant to be highly transactional. That's its created purpose, right? And so to say, well, Doge is going to 1 million per coin, it's like, well, that won't happen, period. Just like the token economics alone don't let that make any reasonable sense, right?
It's inflationary.
Yeah. As opposed to Bitcoin, 21 million, the majority of people fumble their keys and are idiots and they lose it. And then they don't even have custody. Some middleman has custody and then they lose it conveniently, And so like there's going to be way less than 21 million Bitcoin ever in circulation. Like it'll be introduced, in a block to a miner, but at some point someone's going to screw it up. It's not actually going to be circulating in the Bitcoin economy. And if you're holding coins, you're going to end up with a much bigger percentage. Like, trust me, you're going to a much bigger percentage than one of 21 million Bitcoin, right? So grateful for that. Yeah. So speaking of Polygon, we have our next story here. So Polygon Labs president Ryan Watt, the next Jeff Bezos, will come from Web3. So I think that's true. The next Jeff Bezos, meaning like the next extremely wealthy person who transforms the way a lot of the world works, will come from this Web3 industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen that interview?
Yeah, yes. JV, exactly. The Justice Department did get some back. I mean,
yeah.
I don't like how the SEC is settling these things, but I also don't see too many other methods since crypto is non-custodial. It's kind of different, and I don't know that we should be merging the streams of fiat that's highly inflationary and crypto that's not. So.
And I think that loss in the end, no matter how painful it is or how much it stings, it's almost like a required loss for us to learn. And it has been for me, where I became a lot more prudent in choosing instead of just trying to find the 100x or 1000xer. Now I wanted to really understand the industry itself. So when I do make decisions, it's because they are actually doing something constructive, which is in line with this article you just brought up, Brandon. I don't know if you remember, there's an interview of Jeff Bezos where they asked him what he was doing. This was during the implosion, or right before the implosion of all the .coms, and his was one of those that imploded. And if you look at the stock, it looks like a pump and dump, really, back in the day, but the whole industry dumped. And that's where I believe we're at currently. But one thing that Bezos kept saying, there was one word he said the most, was customers, customers, customers. Everything he was doing was for customers, like to service the customers, to take care of the customers, to provide for the customers.
It's like SpongeBob. What about the customers?
That's right. And then you see people like this guy, where or in a few others from other chains that are being deployed currently, they're looking for the community, the Web3, the applicability into the real world solutions. It's all focused on customer, or meaning let's solve real world problems. And that's why this makes sense, because Web3, or the next revolution that Bitcoin began, the industrial, this type of industry revolution, will be the ones that best serve the industry. So I'm with you on that.
Well
On
said.
this,
Yeah, and we're really keeping our finger on that pulse here, because we're building in Web3, right?
Mhm.
And we're meeting a ton of people in Web3, and really trying to make sure that this like illusion gets dispelled. Because, man, I'm gonna freaking scream if I keep hearing people say Web3 isn't defined yet. Yes, it freaking is. Web3, we know what Web3 is. Stop thinking Web3 includes like VR. Web3 is not. VR is VR. They're different technologies. They
Yeah.
are certainly going to exist in the same space, but they're not the same thing. Like, Web 1 was static web pages, HTML. Web 2 was JavaScript, interactive web pages. Web 3 is decentralized ownership of the content. That's
Yep.
period what it is. Like,
Data sovereignty,
it's what it
literally.
is. It's what it is. Stop saying we don't know what Web 3 is. We know what Web 3 is. Web
You know, the
3
ones that
is
say
data
it,
sovereignty.
you know, the ones that say it are the ones that don't understand it yet. They're the
Well,
ones saying that.
they're the ones who might not even quite comprehend Web 1 and 2 either. So
Yeah.
I say this out of love, and not out of like intellectual pride. I promise. Like I'm tired of hearing people say we don't know what it is, though, because we do know what it is, and I'm going to be the one to shout it from the rooftop that we know what it is. So
Yes.
if you don't own your Bitcoin, was the first protocol in Web
Mhm.
3. So Bitcoin proved you hold your keys, you own the asset. There's no help desk. There's no company that can say, I'm sorry, that's ours, and change the numbers on you. Everyone plays by the same rules. And that's the reason why Web3 is data sovereignty, right? Because we have all these bad actors. Like, we've seen people in the last several years have tons of random political triggers they tripped over, and they had their content taken off of Facebook and Twitter and YouTube for saying things that were controversial. Okay, well, free speech exists, deal with it, right? Even if it's fake news, even if it's not reliable information, you have the right to say it.
Mhm.
And for the government to use tech companies as their strong arm to prevent you from voicing your opinion is
Yeah. Or hearing opinion.
it's unconstitutional, dude. Like, let the merit of ideas fight the merit of other ideas. Like, we're big boys and girls. We can handle it. Like, really, we can handle ideas that disagree with us. Like, trust me. So let's read this here. So the former YouTube gaming head joins Decrypt GM podcast to reflect on his path into crypto and how it can all go mainstream. And so here's the link to that. But Decrypt's really good, by the way. Ryan Watt has quickly become a prominent figure in crypto space since joining Polygon Labs early last year. But he's arguably better known for his past in gaming and esports. Under the gamer tag FWiz, Wyatt was a fixture in the early Call of Duty esports scene, working as a commentator. Well, he's a commenter too. He comment, like, share in the comments. Yeah. Later VP of programming of Major League Gaming, MLG Gang Gang. He even co-wrote a best-selling book about the popular esports team Optic Gaming. He then launched and grew YouTube Gaming from 2014 to 2022 as the company's global head of gaming. So that's already an impressive rise to prominence, right? Given his prominence in the gaming world, what ultimately pulled him into crypto. On the latest Decrypt podcast, Wyatt said he got into just simply the idea of digital ownership.
There it is. Web3, baby.
This idea that we're going to keep spending more money on digital items, and you better own those digital items, right? In gaming, this is going to become normalized, and it should become normalized. Like, I don't know if anyone played like Diablo 2 or Diablo 3, but like, Diablo 2 was a really, really serious game, and people were it's made by the same people who made Warcraft and World of Warcraft. They built these like people were basically building these accounts up and they were selling them, and they were really valuable, and people were buying these trained accounts because you'd have people who are just career people. They don't have a ton of time to grind on a game, but they do want to go on big demon raids or whatever with their squad. So when they do have free time, they want to have an account that's not level 5 or something, so they buy these because they have expendable income and not enough time. So then Diablo 3 came out, and they actually had their own marketplace off the get-go, where as you're going through the game, there's loot drops, and they were randomized, and so you'd end up getting like weapons that just had like really good stats on occasion, and you could go on the marketplace and sell them. For a little while, they allowed real-world currency to be given for these digital assets. And so I think that really opened people's minds to like, oh, there's actually kind of an appetite for this. But then pretty quickly their legal counsel was like, you can't do that. And they're like, shit, really? So, and I don't know why they couldn't, but they ran into some legal tricks there. But the other problem there is, if you're doing that, if you're actually selling digital items, you better make sure that system is fair, because if some people are hacking the game and they're able to get better loot drops, and then they're selling these loot drops they got by ill means, then what about those people actually spending the real time to make these things valuable? What that can do is that can crash the perceived value of the items because they're not truly rare. And so that's why it's important for some of these items in gaming going forward to be non-fungible, meaning that specific weapon is this token address. There's no other weapon exactly like that, and no other weapon exists to that exact NFT address. And so NFTs at this point, and please hear this, since we're dispelling some myths about Web3, NFTs, let's talk about them real quick. An NFT is a certificate of authenticity. Stop saying they're JPEGs. Like, I agree, the way they're presented is they're presented in the form of JPEGs. They are not JPEGs. You didn't buy a JPEG. You bought the certificate of authenticity. And if the asset you're buying isn't valuable, then you have a certificate of authenticity for something that isn't valuable. That's not the NFT's fault for being a certificate of authenticity that works well. So the technology is simply a certificate of authenticity that can be sent between accounts and is non-fungible, meaning it's that exact one. It's not one of many, it's that exact one, right? It can be part of a collection, but it's the exact one in that collection. And so let's really start to think about NFTs in that exact term, that it is a certificate of authenticity. Yep. You own that specific one if it's in your account, right?
Yeah, it represents. Yep.
And so Polygon is really addressing like gaming, right? Polygon's probably going to be the blockchain that game developers are building against, because it's fast and it's not expensive, right? And people tried this with Ethereum, and Ethereum got clogged up with like CryptoKitties, right? And that was the first example of the Ethereum network really getting bogged down. They'd never seen volume like that before. And Polygon exists because CryptoKitties.
Yes.
CryptoKitties bogged the whole network down so bad that some of the ETH devs were like, dude, screw this noise. We got to make something happen. And we're not going to get it to happen with all these people who are super protective over Ethereum going a certain direction. So what we'll do is we'll make a side chain that plays nice, but isn't the same thing.
And that's what's so exciting about the industry we're in, guys. It's truly a giant experiment of testing boundaries of where things are possible currently. Yep. And then when we find those bottlenecks or choke points, that's when the next iteration of technologies appear to answer those and solve those problems. So Dot linked, Link. Fuck, I forgot the name, but
what are you trying to say?
The oracles. Here, I'll get you the name of
the claw. He chooses who will go and who will stay.
Link.
Okay.
So Link, all these are answers to problems that were being presented. And so Dot, in terms of the polychain or multi-chain cross connectivity, and so is Atom. So there's so many blockchains coming out, but you have to be aware of why was this launch, what we're seeing. And I'm going to throw a little shade there, but
you can.
Cardano has been a copycat. Like everybody else is saying, "Oh, we can do this." Me too. Me too.
Yeah.
It's versus the others are actually leading. They saw a problem, and some of them even resigned. Like the founder of Dot resigned from the Ethereum development team to launch Dot, and you see so many of those examples. So as long as it's solving a problem, man, it's exciting. This whole industry is really exciting to follow. But there's a lot of trash that must die.
Yeah, JV was saying a VIN number on a car is pretty
Yep.
much a certificate of authenticity.
That's
It
it.
is, yeah, and
Yes.
and I exactly think it's that concept of like it's this exact one, and of course, like I think you'll have to at some point work with the actual original equipment manufacturers to like certify that like that NFT
I
address
think that's
goes
the
to that
soul-bound
specific.
tokens, isn't it, Brandon?
No, so
Is
soulbound
that
tokens are
different?
for soulbound tokens are people identities. And so like Jaime Garzaro would have a soulbound token and that would just become your legitimate provable address online. Like you'd be like, this is my wallet, this is my identity. That wouldn't be a car though. That
You
would be
sure?
yeah, they're persons, they're not cars. The way I've already looked into this, the way that
Okay. Thank you, sir.
yeah, there's we'll talk about it at some point.
Okay.
I'm building something, so
But
I don't
these
want to out
concepts,
myself. But
got it. Nice. But see,
yeah,
these concepts are so important to understand, everyone, because I always cede to Data Lord because he is the actual hands getting dirty in the software, in the architecture, and all
they're
of this.
clean.
That's right. No, you're a dirty shovel gangbanger. So yeah, it's
Keyboard
great.
calluses. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Never challenge his thumb, he'll crush you. So that's what's so exciting about being in this industry. Even
Yeah,
at these bear markets and these conditions where no one's watching, this is when shit is happening because everyone else is getting washed out.
that's exactly true. And I will say the bear markets are great because
Mhm.
the signal to noise ratio changes. You know, you actually have less noise going on, and the people who are actually building, like they're still hanging around. You can easily spot who they are, and if you click up
Mhm.
right now and actually know who the people who are busy when it isn't like get rich quick, like those are people you want to be with long term, anyways, because you know
Yep,
you'll go far together.
precisely.
What I didn't say is you'll go fart. You go fart together. You could go fart together too, though.
Yeah. Just don't
But
do it. Roll down the windows for the love of God.
yeah, let's finish this article here.
Be nice.
So, so I was immediately sold. Right, I think there's an infinite amount of things that can be done in the space on this. He said, and that's what made me jump in with such conviction. Wyatt, who joined Polygon Studios as CEO in February 2022 and recently shifted into the president role at the rebranded Polygon Labs, said that he's come to understand why some people are very spirited about the economic angle of cryptocurrency. But for him, embracing Web3 was all about seeing the potential future impact of true digital ownership. The prospective benefits for gamers are obvious. Even if the video game fans have vocally rejected NFTs, gamers already shell out for digital items in games like Fortnite, Call of Duty, and they can't resell or use other games in other games and worlds. Blockchain-based games can potentially give players that level of control with broader advantages. Interestingly, Wyatt said he chose Polygon Labs above the potential opportunities due to the ability to work with creators and builders across a wide array of verticals. That's key, actually. He helped grow the creator economy at YouTube and now wants to do the same for Web3 creators without being solely tethered into the gaming space. I want to expand outside of gaming and see how all this world is very interconnected, he said. That part I felt pretty strongly about. He added that while rival layer 1 platforms like Solana and Avalanche were certainly gaining steam, the Ethereum space already had established users and developers. Wyatt also loved the founders of Polygon and Ethereum scaling network that enabled faster and cheaper transactions than mainnet. And that's why Polygon's a big deal.
Mhm.
Acquiring and integrating ZK scaling projects in 2021, signaling long-term ambitions. Furthermore, Wyatt believed he could help elevate Polygon by bringing his experience from the Web 2 world. So that's the article. I want to just kind of talk about a few things on this. So what makes a game or a piece of software cloud? let's just ask that question first. Software as a service, right? Well, if you have, let's use Steam, for example. Okay, if you have like if you have the Steam client installed on your machine, does that mean you have every Steam game every Steam game installed on your computer? No. Steam has cloud infrastructure that you can connect to that's probably hosted in Amazon Web Services or Google Cloud, or some other cloud platform. But you're connecting to their cloud, downloading content to a client installed on your computer, and then you have that content that you can execute and use on your machine. But depending on the game, if you level up a character or a hero, whatever, you have some SQL database or some other type of database on that specific game developer servers that your content's being stored on. And so the idea here is like, okay, why is that cloud gaming then? Well, it's cloud gaming because part of the infrastructure is cloud. What is cloud? Well, the content delivery is cloud, right? And the service where they're keeping, your XP and your win-loss ratio, that type of thing, they're keeping that on their cloud. You have part of it installed on your machine, though. So my point here is that no matter what, we have hybrid infrastructure. Like very rarely do we have something that's only cloud or is only on-premises server installed or is only local client-based, right? Sometimes it happens, but it's not common. So my point here is this. What makes a game or a piece of software a blockchain piece of software? Well, part of the system is on blockchain. What part of that system needs to be on blockchain? Certificate of authenticity and certificate of ownership. That's what has to be immutable, right? Mm-hmm. If certificate of authenticity is not immutable, then you don't actually own it. And if certificate of
authority.
Yes, I'm sorry. So you have two things: certificate of authenticity saying it really is that thing, and certificate of ownership saying it's your thing, right? Mm-hmm. If you don't have those two, you're kind of in a bad spot, because the immutable qualities of your value isn't actually owned by you, right? Now, there's a few components here that I'm still kind of questioning. Like, let's say you own all that, and this game developer runs out of money to keep their cloud services running properly, and they take them down. Well, the game's offline now. You still own assets on a dead game, is the idea. Yeah. And so we don't really have a solution for this just yet. And I want us as a community to keep an eye out for that type of thing. I mean, I think at some point, just being visionary, I think at some point, everyone has computer hardware, and computer hardware is getting more and more powerful all the time. And if you look at most people's, like task manager or activity monitor on their computer, you'll see like their CPU is running at like 20% most of the time. Their GPU is running at 10% most of the time. Their RAM's only allocated, 30% most of the time, depending on what the specs are on your machine. But, people have a ton of headroom on their computers. So I'm wondering if at some point we can't have some client we can just run natively in our operating system that will use up a specific amount of free space in our components that we specify. And when we're not using them anyway, we end up getting paid just to rent out part of our hardware for decentralized computing. So I'd like to see that exist at some point. And I've seen a few things dabble with it, but they suck. And that's just because they're early experiments, right? But at some point, there is going to be some platform that does this well. And I think it makes good sense, because if I can have all my data chopped up into little blocks and encrypted, and a little bit of my data is on Jaime's machine, and a little bit of my data is on JV's machine, and a little bit of it is on Tamp's machine, let's say, mm-hmm. None of them actually have the ability, and some of it's on Boston's for sure. I know he's got a setup. Boston, I salute you, brother. Good morning. So I think that it only makes sense, though, that at some point we kind of have it set up that way. Mm-hmm. And then if I need an asset, I don't have to use like IPFS, which is like Web3 cloud storage. Instead, I could use something that's just like grabs, almost like BitTorrent. It grabs a little bit from each person, decrypts them because I have the private key, and then I can use my data properly. Mm-hmm. that's what I see happening at some point, but I don't see any projects that I'm convinced are doing that at the level I want to see it at to actually build on it yet. So, so to the community, please keep your eye out. If you see anything that does something kind of like that, bring it to my attention if I don't already know about
Yes.
it. And I'd love us to talk about it because I'm like on a treasure hunt right now for some tool set that does that. And you know, at some point, I'm gonna meet enough people that if this thing doesn't exist yet, I'm just gonna build it. Like, say I won't, but like,
Nice.
you know, but like this is a very complex technical feat to endeavor on, and I don't want to like belittle how complex this thing really is because you're as soon as you're dealing with hardware and cryptography and distributed network systems, like it gets complicated really quick. It's not just a web page, you know. So
No
yeah.
monkey JPEGs.
Yeah, yeah, and by the way, you don't own a monkey JPEG. You own just a certificate of authenticity to a monkey JPEG. And if you don't like that monkey JPEG, then you're just buying a certificate of authenticity to a hype cycle, aren't you? Yeah. Kind of are. So, anyways, that's our show for the day. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
I know it's been a slow bear market. We're crawling. We're doing it.
We're still building.
We're doing it, and please, we'll be here Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 Eastern.
We'll try for 9, guys. Sorry.
Well, that was my bad. I you know, I just
I'll do better.
Yeah, you know, just forgive me, please forgive me. But anyways, JV, I salute you. Boston, I salute you. Everyone else hanging out who didn't say what's up in the chat, I salute you. But if you say what's up in the chat, I'll salute you and give you a shout out. So
Precisely.
You know, lay to love you. Bye. Keep calm and huddle on.
Huddle on, guys. Take care.
Keep calm.
See you Wednesday.
Don't get bothered now. Don't do it.